Welcome to the new session of Dr. Kamini Rao's Masterclass.
Normally within 10 minutes after someone meets me in the context of the work, I'm asked this question. Because then they won't exist. 2 years later when you go there, they will not exist, or the people that are not necessarily qualified. So both have to go hand in hand.
But you've also involved these children into community programs.
In Kannada, we want to create, because many of the children, I believe, are getting out of school. I believe meaning the research shows. You could put the QR code of these videos on the textbook, and then the teacher could actually use her scanner on the phone. If you're talking about air, if you're talking about does it have weight, does it whatever. We have done the real-time experiment. There is some animation as well. So the child actually gets to do some of these experiments in his own environment, because they are locally used material to get these science concepts right. So it's taking it to the next level, but it's only in 4,500 schools as opposed to the millions of schools, but we are getting there, I think. And to me, the government is not investing any money in any of our programs directly. It's totally funded by the CSR initiatives, but the content and all of that, for us, it's a grant that we have received, like from FICCI and Cisco or Intel, whatever. That's a separate thing, but I'm talking about the implementation part of it. The infrastructure is coming from the CSR initiatives, and when it goes to school, it's supported by the government for the during school intervention. You see, because they have to give you the permission also. This is the during school intervention. It has to be aligned to the timetable, vetted by the government, the Department of Education. All of that support is there from the block education officer. So you could be financially, no, it's not supported by them. So there is a struggle for that as well.
How do you find experiences in terms of any real-time experiences with children who've really done well, and it's really made a change in the way you think that this program has to go on? Has there been any real-time experiences?
Real-time, as well as there has been some third-party impact studies that have been done by 3 organizations. Christ University, they have a social cell.
Yes.
They did that about last year for about 165 schools. Microsoft Research did one randomized control, group. They did that. Grey Matters did another one. So they all reflect that the teachers are more confident to teach the same subjects, and it's influencing them the way they teach, because they're exposed to better methodologies. And the children are showing more interest, and it's brought about more engagement, peer to peer, and then from teacher to the students, all of that. So there has been very, very positive impact. Personally, when you go to the school, many times the children don't even know the visitors are there, because they're absorbed. And so there's something new that's happening, there's something new that they're watching on the, things like that. So that's at a personal level and anecdote, but that becomes an anecdotal level. But it's also gone through data driven.
Which is excellent, which I feel that people should look at it. And that too, coming in from a government school and very few aided schools, perhaps government aided schools, and then comparing them to the private schools. Do the government schools who are being taught by you people ever take any exams other than public exams with this thing, and have these schools, children who have passed out of these schools, which you have lost, given back to these schools after they've gone out?
I've had a few of them only at the community level, who have been employed there for a year or 2, and then they've moved on to other places, but it's at a small scale. But I don't have the data to see if they're giving in their own community and things like that. We need to do a separate study.
Because that will actually, because you have to hone in them that you have to give back for what you've got.
True.
Because other than that, the chain is broken.
Like I said, at the community level, the kids that have had the scholarship, taking them to US, those are the people that have done that. But that's a very small scale, so we haven't actually been able to.
So while they are in the 8th and 9th and 10th standard, this has to be inculcated into them. small things like the 10th standard students to teach the 4th standard students, and say for example the 4th standard students to teach the say 3rd standard or the 2nd standard. So this kind of bonding between seniors and juniors, so that they understand each other much better.
We have to build it into the system, right?
Absolutely, and then keep that engagement going and make it stronger.
Yeah, because I do see many of the private schools, they have made it mandatory. There's a name for it, I forget the technical name for it, as part of the social giving.
Yes.
So they have to actually volunteer in some of the organizations, get the certification.
The 40 hours of work.
Like National University of Singapore, for example, we get a lot of, we have an MOU with them, they send a lot of their interns, but that's part of their curricula. They have to go serve in another country, sometimes corporate, sometimes non-profit. Either way, there is a model, a business model, or something that you need to have to build an organization. So they do send their interns, and then about 3 months later they get the certification. So that is part of their system. So we don't have that at the government school level, but it's a wonderful thing.
I think you should implement that, because I think you can't keep on depending on these resources which are not permanent. And the only way you can create some permanent resources is to say that, look, somebody helped you, now you help somebody.
True, true.
Because they would have gained out of it.
Absolutely.
And the fact is, they know how it really impacted them. Who better can tell you about the impact other than the child who received it?
True, true.
So I think this will be a good process to follow, and then have some work done on that. This will make a lot of difference, and hopefully that will take forward. And in another way, how do you think that the community there, where you are sort of helping out as knowledge partners, how does the community help over there?
So this Christ University, when they did this, they did a 360-degree study where they also interviewed the parents and the community. So for them, it's more of having smart classes like their counterpart village private schools, like a lot of pride for them. So they also have technology in their schools. Parents, they're not going to pull them out. Sometimes there was reverse migration from the private school. They've actually put them back into the government school. So they're supportive that way. They know what's happening. They just think that the children have better opportunities because of that, and it's as good as the private school. That's where I would say their encouragement is, that they want to send their children to the government school.
Excellent.
It becomes a focal point to the community now, because
Absolutely.
schools are well equipped and supported.
So I feel that looking at this now, with your kind of the commitment to education, midday meals and community services, how much have your children imbibed this?
In a very subtle way.
Yeah.
I think Radhika, who I came to India with, she has been involved in many levels. Sometimes when I write papers or something, I run it by her and I say, can you test that? But otherwise, all the children have been extremely supportive. First ones to actually give me a good clap.
Because they're your best critics, yeah.
Absolutely.
No?
And then they'll also tell you, yeah, when you're off track, they'll tell you about it. All the three of them, Asha, Harsha and Radhika, they've all been very supportive, even the extended family. But in a day-to-day kind of stuff, it's your peers, the people that you're working with, sometimes strangers and sometimes people that you met at a conference, and it's different, because this work is not necessarily the most glamorous part of it, and it's not everybody's cup of tea. Probably most of the work is like that, but then especially this, it is tough because like you said, there is poverty, there is lack of opportunity. Sometimes there might be lack of hope and things like that. But however, to me, it's more of what you get out of it when you've done it, when you've succeeded in the program. It's a transformation. That's what you'd be actually looking at. I want to tell a small story about how did technology come into place. About maybe 15 years back, just when we had closed the midday meal and we were trying to see the education space, what we needed to do, I went to a science workshop, and I've said this story many times. And this science workshop was done by someone that lived in Bijapur, north of Karnataka. And I was just observing him, and then I learned at the end of the session that he was a national awardee for popularizing hands-on science with the locally available material. I was fascinated, and he had about 100 teachers, somebody had gathered in a corporate house, and all his material for the science experiments were in a metal suitcase, couple of boxes. So at the end of it, but by then my mind was already in that space of how do you actually do something, how can you contribute in this space where it actually makes sense and makes a difference, So, and then I went up to him and I said, how many of these trips can you do? Because you're amazing, there's no doubt about it. I realized he was also part of the textbook committee, whatever he could do in his space. So he said, as many trips as I could make with my trunks, which is metal trunk, which is maybe 6 or 7 of them in a year or something like that, 8, because he lives far. So then I asked him, I was thinking about doing something, would you come and meet me? So we sent him a ticket, he came and met us. Then he became our resource person for science for the next 3 years, where he would visit once a month, stay there for a week.
Where?
We would find accommodation in GKVK, across road, pick him up. So who did the storyboards, who did the experiments, and we would do the video shoot. Once we figured that out, because I just thought his teachings, his methodologies, his passion for science should reach hundreds of teachers and hundreds of schools. It shouldn't be only because that many schools that he could actually go travel to. So that's where the technology, for me, that was the trigger. And once we were able to do the physics, it became easy to do the chemistry part of it, other math. And then it just grew and grew and grew into this 20,000 videos that we created. So when I spoke to him about a month back, I said, he had called me to congratulate on some award. I said, guess in how many schools children are watching your experiments? And I said 4,000. He was just dumbfounded. He goes, yeah, now I get I would understand why you actually wanted to do it, kind of stuff, because, so that's what it is. It's about creating a platform and a medium where it can be shared, reviewed, added on to. That's the age we are in now, right? It becomes new content as people keep adding to it.
Absolutely. It's the joy of sharing and giving.
Right.
It's absolute. It just multiplies. It's a domino effect as I look at it.
Yeah.
So how's the role of your husband in all this? Was he the World Bank or was he the bank of the family?
Yes, good question. All of it. He passed away about 3 years back.
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that.
So, but I spoke to someone last week and they were just saying, I didn't even know that person. He was saying, do you know how much he used to talk about your work? So I didn't know that. That's the surprise. So in the background, you can't do it unless someone is very supportive of your work and things like that.
They'll always say behind every successful man, there's a more successful woman. And in your case, the more successful woman, there's a very strong man behind you, and that was your husband, isn't it?
Yeah. I was working in US till I came here, except when the children were very young. I used to work from home or part-time or whatever. Otherwise, I was a full-time software developer, literally till 1 month before I came here.
So you felt that right from the beginning that you would be into education and you would only do this and create an NGO. Okay, that came on the way, creating the NGO. But your passion for teaching, when did it emanate from you?
So it's not the teaching as such, because even in US, even when I was doing software development, I had this, I don't know if it's restlessness or wanting to do something more. And I was a volunteer and an executive director for the volunteers for the visually handicapped. juvenile diabetes. So there were many young people, they would be visually impaired and sometimes kidney failures because of that, and I would go to the offices, their offices, and I would be reading to them their transcripts, and they would be working at the corporate level. However, and then because of my commitment, I was on their board for a couple of years, and I used to also volunteer for the adult literacy program, because the immigrants who would come there, they actually didn't know how to read and write, and the government had created this system of this kind of software where you go to a public library and we would teach how to read and write. And Radhika said, I had forgotten that I used to tag her along, and she used to be right there. She would be working with the younger generation, where I would be working with the older person that had come to that country who didn't know how to read and write. So I had been doing that anyway, so that innate thing was there in me to want to
extend.
So when I came here, the timing was just right. I had been there and done that, and my children had come to a particular stage in life. I could actually pursue this. It just came about that way. Although I came for a year,
you decided.
And then I thought if I had to go back, if Radhika wanted to go back, if the family resisted too much, I would have to go back, but I would have continued the midday meal. But it so happened her stay extended for 4 years, but then she went back to US to do her bachelor's and master's and all of that. At that time my husband was still there, but in my logical thinking was, even if I was there, Radhika would have moved out to college. So now she has gone there, she can always come back every 3 months. So I never went back, because by then it was also becoming very demanding to run.
And you were actually enjoying your work here.
Absolutely.
Over there, it is not going to be the same. And what you like, what you enjoy, and what is your passion, is that you must follow what you want to do, and that's important.
Totally blessed.
So it's really good, and it's very nice to have you on this show, Bhagya. And of course, having so much of talent and so much of diversity in thought as well as in action, what would your message be to my viewers? There's a lot of them who would be taking a lot of notes on what you have said. So what would your message to them as to why be ordinary when you can be extraordinary, like yourself?
Yeah, I would just say that for yourself when there is something that's very compelling for you to start, but don't get daunted by how big it has to be or would you be able to do it. Just start. Don't wait for too many things to be at the right place. It'll never be. I think you should just start, and then start small and build it. That would be my advice.
So what do you say, just go out and do it?
You just have to do it. Absolutely.
There is only a plan A, no plan B.
Absolutely. I think you should just go with your heart, put all of your soul in it, and then let it just grow from your passion.
So thank you very much, Bhagya. That was a very interesting episode, and I'm sure now that we've come to the end of this session, I'm sure my viewers are inspired to make a difference just like you did, Bhagya. I'm pretty sure that they feel empowered after this amazing episode. Knowing you to this extent was a very pleasant experience. That was Bhagya Rangachar for you. My next episode is going to be the 20th episode, a very special episode and for a very special person. Watch the space for more.
Hi, I am Arvind, a medical practitioner and a healthcare consultant now, about 66 years old, and a great day for me to participate in Dr. Kamini Rao's masterclass. I visited Purvi Digi Smart and found excellent facilities, infrastructures, and really look forward to being interviewed by Kamini. Hope you will enjoy this program. Thank you.